Hello, hello. Happy Saturday. Welcome to this month's book talk by Madam Greengrow. I am Keisha. I'm your host, and I'm super excited to bring you this information. Right now, I'm just going to get started with our conversation tonight. And what I'm going to do before I get started is that if you are watching this live, be sure to let us know where you're from. Let me go ahead and hop on screen. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. We are reading The Feminist Weed Farmer. All month, we've been talking about growth with Madam Greengrow. And today, we get an opportunity to review the title that we have been talking about. I'm super excited to bring you this information. So I'm going to share my screen because I have a few slides that I want to get an opportunity to share with you today. But if you are not familiar with who I am, this voice that you hear, what Madam Greengrow is, I want to go ahead and give you a quick review. We are Madam Greengrow. That is my co-founder there to my right. I am Keisha. Her name is Jamia. We are who you see as Madam Greengrow. We started this organization in 2016, and those who have been following along on this journey know all about what that journey looks like. So I am grabbing my phone, which seems to have been going off, but we'll ignore that. So Jamia and I started Madam Greengrow in 2016 because we attended a cannabis competition in Washington, D.C. I love telling the story. We attended a cannabis competition in Washington, D.C. We didn't get an opportunity to get in, but we were gifted a clone, which we'll talk about in this book talk. We were gifted a clone, which turned out to be a male. And our journey began on learning about the cannabis plant as it relates to women of color, as it relates to mental health, as it relates to just self-care in general. So one thing that I want to talk about is what I'm wearing, right? So this is a shirt that says, I burn sage, weed, and bridges. And this is a lovely top that was created by the Make and Bake. And I'm going to see their emblem on the back there. Great merch. We love to showcase women of color and cannabis brands. So if you're interested in this design here, I'll make sure that they are linked in the description box. And super excited because I felt like it was a very appropriate shirt to wear for today. And you can see how it's cut. It's nice. It's flowy. It's perfect. I tend to wear a lot of graphic tees, but this one here, man, that's so super dope. Let me get that full on screen there. Okay, cool. You know, I always got to do something for the thumbnail. So once again, we started in 2016 because we didn't see women of color who were talking about cannabis openly, who lived near us, who we'd be able to reference when it came to those things. So we've been building this community. We will continue to build this community, and I'm super excited that I have the privilege to do this. So a little bit about the book talk. So the book talk is a little bit of a spin on a traditional book report review, those things that you used to have to do in elementary school. So this book talk it's going to be a little bit of a review, but also I'll be talking about three main topics that I pulled out while reading this text that I think, one, you should get the book, and two, you can apply to your everyday life. And I hope that if the author is watching, I invite her to come and let's have a really good open discussion. It's been a few years since this was published, and I'd love to, one, spotlight and highlight her as a woman of color in cannabis, and also talk a little bit about the journey. So if anybody knows where we can find the author, I did some digging over the last 2 months and I couldn't quite find anything, but I will not give up. You hear me? I will not give up. So back to the presentation. A bit about the book talks is we wanted, like I said, it was a bit of a book report / takeaway from your normal experiences. So if you were looking for a chapter 1, chapter 2 gentle read, this is not it for you. Awesome. So this is the author, Madrone Stewart. I am going to give you a bit of her bio from the title of the book. One of the things that I also want to mention is that this book was published by a Oh, did I lose y'all? Okay, sorry about that. Microcosmic Publishing, what is the publishing company that produced this title, and they have a lot of different cannabis titles in addition to The Feminist Weed Farmer. But if you are looking for, different titles that will allow you to expand your knowledge around cannabis, around, mushrooms, any type of alternative DIY, even zines and coloring books, they are all there. So giving you the quick review of this book and the author, it was a really great read for us. And I'll just go ahead and read this one right off of the author's page on the website. So, weed is a powerful medicine, and growing your own is empowering as it gets. Experienced. Let me slide over here real quick. This is live. I'm giving y'all all the stumbles and bumbles. Boom. All right. Weed is a powerful medicine, and growing your own is as empowering as it gets. Experienced Humboldt farmer Madrone Stewart shares her hard-won knowledge gained from years of growing cannabis, Zen meditation, which was so dope to read, and surviving as a woman in a male-dominated industry. She walks you through the big picture in each detail about growing about 6 plants, which we also recommend. If you're not really doing a huge grow op or you're a caregiver, you don't need to really grow more than 6 plants. Trust me. Selecting seeds to harvest and processing, humerus, sage. I thought the shit was appropriate. Sage, and with the big heart, each chapter is infused with what she's learned about equalizing the weed industry, applying mindfulness to pest management, and the importance of owning each step of the process. So this was a pretty great read. I'd give it 5 out of 5 buds, if that is how we are doing the reviews there. But 5 out of 5 buds, definitely supporting this woman of color in cannabis. She owned a farm. She talks about that experience. She talks about her hiring practices, and we'll get a little bit into that as we go over the talk. So let me hush up and get to this review. So I wanted to start with a quote from the author that says, if you learn anything from this book, it will be how to pay close attention to the unfolding of life and death. Very poignant. Only because when you think about the process of growing cannabis, or even the process of growth as an individual, in some of our other segments, we talk a bit about mastery and mindset and self-development and things that you really need to know in order to grow, which is why June is all about growth. From seed, from clone, from that birth of the first couple of leaves that you see to harvest to consumption, there's an entire process. And I think it's not only on brand with the actual process of growing cannabis, but growth as an individual. You'll learn so much from not only this book, but the actual practice. So let me slide over into the first topic, which is everything has a process, right? So from life to death, from birth to graduation from high school, everything has a process. And one of the things that I noted in this book was that the process started for this author through learning how to grow through a boyfriend, right? Plants, putting that time and attention. She saw the time and attention that her partner put into growing, sustainably outside, and then modeled those same practices. Everything has a process, right? A lot of folks are getting super woke about things that are happening in the world, right? You didn't necessarily know about white privilege. You didn't necessarily know about Juneteenth. Well, guess what? Now you have no reason not to. Everything has a process. So learning about the proper way to grow cannabis, from clones, from seeds. She put everything in really great detail when it came to understanding exactly what it took to grow. And it wasn't even just watering, feeding the plant. It was something that you had to learn internally, right? So I actually have a few, if you don't mind, I'm not going to hold you. This should be about 30 minutes. If you're counting, we're about 12 minutes in. I wanted to read a few out of the first couple of parts that talks about process, because I think that is important, and I think that it was a great way to kick off the book. But I'm going to get off camera because I don't want y'all talking about me. All right, so if you turn to her origin story, pretty much, is page 10. And it is the paragraph that starts "the source of." One of my highlighted pieces, and I'll hop back on camera for that. I highlighted the crap out of this as I was reading it, and there was just a lot of points that I wanted to pull out and share with you all as we kind of talked about this book. So we're on page 10 and we're saying the industry is completely market driven and overwhelmingly dominated by capitalist straight white cis men, right? She stops and goes, "I love y'all, no shade, but this industry should be for the brown and black folk whose lives have been impacted due to the failed war on drugs," right? She goes on to say that it's a shameful reality where the same people who have been disproportionately policed and penalized for cultivating cannabis have also been left out of the industry, and that is now extremely lucrative and legal, right? I thought it was a really poignant point that she opened the book talking about, I see that you understand how much funds or money that you can bring in from growing cannabis, but guess what? It's still kind of messed up that in the state of Maryland, perhaps, there is no way that those who have been targeted due to the war on drugs can enter the industry. And I'm sure that is the case for a lot of states. So I thought standing on that first 10 pages in, come on, sis, I hear you. Another piece that I highlighted is that talking more about the industry as it currently stands, and I'll jump into why I brought this up and what I think is a great solution for it is that however, in the addition to the lack of diversity, legally sanctioned corporate cannabis factories are increasingly replacing mom and pop farms. Think about bookstores, think about the big box store boom of the late 90s, early 2000s. And, are increasingly replacing mom and pop farms and pot shops. Thus, the centralization of wealth and power within the industry is rapidly increasing. But guess where it's not going? To your community. So I thought it was a really good point that it was a theme that she talked about throughout the book about how freeing it is, that she wanted you to understand how freeing it is that if you're able to grow your cannabis, she says outdoors, I say wherever you can, on a windowsill, indoors if you need be, that act is a radical self-care, right? Straight like that. Second topic, empower your community. So a theme throughout this book was about empowering your community. I'm looking down at my notes. Those who watch the lives, they know how I go. Empowering your community. She realized entering into the industry, she wanted to do more than just grow some cute little plants. She wanted to be able to empower her community. But she realized after working as a trimmer, building up to harvest manager, that there weren't many opportunities for women, and damn sure weren't many opportunities for people of color. So she started her own farm, Purple Kite Farms, where she hired women and queer people. Very poignant theme for today's, world environment that we're living in, right? We need to be able to have those, and we hope that with Madrone Grow, we're doing a little bit of that as far as community building and empowerment. That we are empowering those to learn from people who look like you, purchase from people who look like you. Make sure that your dollars stay in your community a little bit longer than it would traveling outside the community. I know a lot of folks are home right now. We are either under quarantine or we are in a safe at home order, moving around with or without mask. Wear your mask, wash your hands, please. We see that it's important to still invest into our community. So empowering your community, if you have space to be able to hire, if you have space to be able to donate, if you have space to be able to give space, right? It's important to be able to use your privilege or use the benefits that you have to be able to bring your community together. Because right now, the world is burning. And the only thing that can save us, to be very honest, is a little bit of love and healing, a little bit of sage, keep your bridges tight, something like that. So that was the second topic that I got out of this book talk. It was out of this book, it was a really great theme throughout the book. Not only does the book, one, go from, like I said, seed to harvest or seed to bud, it also goes through her timeline of what she learned and some of the things that, she wants the reader to take away from this experience. Yeah. I'm going to fly over to a page here. And if you are following along in your book, she talks about clones. Clones were actually on page 19. We're still in the earlier part of the book. But down at the bottom, I wanted to point out something that was very typical for a gardener, but may not necessarily be something that's common to the average reader. And I want to see if you can pull out the theme of community around here. So, while clones, first of all, let's define what a clone is. A clone is a branch that was clipped off of another plant. That's how she identifies it in the book. And to be very honest, literally, a clone is snapped off of a branch and then propagated so that the roots can grow and that it could grow into the same exact plant it came from, right? Typically, a mother of a cannabis plant can make, hundreds of clones as long as you take care of that plant. So now that you know what a clone is, we're going to go down to the bottom of page 19, and I'm going to go ahead and read. It says, while clones are great for many reasons, remember, clones are things that were clipped off of another living, breathing plant, may be a mother plant, right? While clones are great for many reasons, the challenges are also diverse. Clones are more susceptible to pests and thus require an extremely vigilant and aggressive integrated pest management plan. Now, that sounds like, if you are not someone who grows at all, it sounds like gibberish, right? But think about it. Clones are typically the community, right? Clones are the mother plant is the overall message of that movement of the community. Clones are susceptible to different thoughts, different patterns, different mindsets. Folks coming in and telling you, hey, there's no reason for you to be protesting right now. You should just sit at home. Your voice didn't do nothing 30 years ago. It's not going to do anything now. Same thing with clones. If you don't have that protection, if you don't have that buildup, that foundation, you already know you come from strong roots. You already know that you are destined for greatness. We see what you can be. But if you aren't protected, right? If you aren't watered or nurtured or watched over with a watchful eye, as they say, you could wither and die. You could become something that you never thought you'd be. So empowering your community means once you get to a certain place, sit back, step back, and look out for those who are behind you, who are watching you, who may be trying to catch up with you because you're moving a little bit faster than normal. Make sure you reach back and get their hand and bring them with you, right? So lastly, last topic point is representation matters, and that's just straight off of the title of the book cover. There is nothing that is more authentically Black than this cover. You look at it, you see that representation truly matters. You open it up, you see her face. There is no way that you can't tell me that this is somebody that you don't already know, someone that you don't already identify with. I implore you to find things that you can feel represented in and support those. If it's a book, if it's a product, if it's a mindset, find a way to find that representation in your life. Because as we move forward in this world that we are building and trudging on, there are going to be a lot of things that challenge your mindset. There are going to be a lot of things that eat up at your roots. And you want to make sure that you have a system, a support system, a strong support system, like a system growing cannabis, like a hobby of indoor gardening, like friends and family who check in on you, right? And you check in on them too. You're going to need that system. So this book, I felt like it was a metaphor for a time that we're going through right now, right? Things don't look like they used to. And you have to trudge on, and you have to have faith, and you have to remember that you can thrive. This ain't nothing new at all. For brown and black folks, that trauma is in our DNA, and it's now time to transform from it. So that is what I got. Those are the 3 topics. Everything has a process. Representation matters, which is that last one, and then making sure that you empower your community. It's a cycle from beginning to end. As I wrap up, I just want to make sure that I talk about our next book talk. We used to do them every month, kind of, but now we have moved into a system where we will be doing them quarterly, and we've got, thinking about August or September, we're going to vote on a date and a few titles in our garden club. If you aren't familiar with the garden club, it's a crew of dope individuals who are talk about cannabis. We talk about what we've been up to. We talk about our experiences. We drop links. We support merch, all that. Come on through. Also, if you are interested in indoor cultivation, we've got a little series going on. We every Monday in June at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we've been hosting grow sessions with Madam Green Grow. You just missed the 3rd one, your garden essentials, where we talked about the essentials that you need in your garden for a great growth cycle or session. Before that, we talked about light, and before that, we went over a little bit of an overview of what we'd be talking about, all about the nitty-gritty of growing. So we've got 2 left. This week coming up, we'll be talking about stinky is okay, stinky tea, stinky soil, stinky feet, all the stinks. It is okay in your garden. And we'll be wrapping up with helping you get started with your indoor garden this summer. Technically, today is the first day of summer, and it doesn't feel like it because it's been raining all day, but we hope that our intention with the grow sessions is to help you get a bit of a hobby, busting some of those myths around growing cannabis or even just growing indoors, and building a community of individuals who love growing, who love talking about cultivation and everything that goes along with it. So if you're interested in that, head on over to our website, madamgreengrow.com, or check out our Instagram bio. The information for signing up for the garden sessions should be there. And I'll also make sure that it is linked in this video as we wrap up. And that is it. All right. So that was a great book talk. I hope that you all got some good information. At least purchase the book, get an idea of get an idea of cultivation. One of the things that I love that she ended the book with was this here, 20 ideas for enriching your cannabis growing experience, because it can be a long 4 months. So some of the things: decorating your garden with a string of lights and art and prayer flags, setting those intentions, playing some music. Get the title. It's a great one. I hope that you all have a great weekend. I hope that June has been good to you. And be sure to follow Madam Green Grow via our website, via our social media. We've got a good week of content coming up next week. And I hope you don't miss out. So until then, peace.